Kaini Jai Harawi Hok iti kancay Posokoman tarwaska Komerwang Angkas puwang Hiyawar baca Chiquilla Sachakunatak muyuring Kastanghina Sampaya Sachakuna Chinya Manahayin punyoy Sampaya Manahayin punyoy Hanak baca Hanak baca Hanak baca
It was here on the shores of the sacred Lake Titicaca that the Creator started his holy work and created individuals and nations. He fashioned human beings from clay and breathed life and soul into each one. To each nation he gave a language to speak and songs to sing. To humans he gave food and seeds for them to sow. He painted the clothes each nation was to wear. He taught man how to pray. It was the beginning of the beginning, as the ancient legend tells us. The Father Sun touched the waters of the sacred Lake Titicaca with his first rays. It was a sign and the promise that the lake would be the place where his son and daughter would come from. The promise that he would send his children to teach humans how to know God and to gain knowledge and happiness. The name of the son was Manco Capac, and the name of his sister wife was Mama Oclio. Manco Capac carried a golden staff. He was instructed to establish a city in the spot where the staff sank into the earth. The divine couple gathered many people together at the new place. Manco Capac taught men how to cultivate the land, make plows, raise cattle, dig irrigation canals, grow plants, and use the fruits of the land. Mama Oclio taught women how to weave and spin cotton and wool, sew clothes, cook food, and raise children. During this benign reign of the divine couple, there was affluence and happiness on the earth. This is the story of the foundation of the city named Cusco or Cusco, which means the hub of the universe in Quechua. It was a great capital, the center of the Inca world. This is a square where, in profound silence, the honorable ruler, the great Inca, together with the priests, saluted the sun during the feast days and ceremonies dedicated to the glorious heavenly body. Many ancient peoples constructed their monuments in accordance with what, for them, were important principles derived from nature, especially the sky. The capital of the Inca Empire is one of the examples of this sacred architecture. Even now, when looking at the city with all its modern buildings, you can still see the ancient shape of the puma. the symbol of power and mystery. Today, the central square of Cusco is marked by the Spanish conquest. Previously much larger, it was divided up into smaller parts by the Spaniards. On the upper part of the square, where the Incas held their ceremonies devoted to the sun, the cathedral was built. The place was even named by the Spaniards the Square of Weapons or Military Parade Ground. They also added these details, wooden balconies. The colonists added them to the Inca palaces to give them a European style. The foundations of many buildings in the central area of Cusco are based on ancient walls built by the Incas. The masonry is incomparable. Huge blocks up to 70 cubic feet are so precisely fitted together that they have remained firmly in place for centuries without any special mortar, purely because of their weight. One of the miracles of Inca stonework, which has been very well preserved until modern times, is the 12-angle stone. This is indeed a wonder of engineering. Precisely cut grooves and protuberances hold the surrounding blocks firmly in place around it. Every tourist visiting Cusco knows that you cannot insert a steel blade between the great stones. However, there is another much more interesting fact about the blocks. The side of the stone, which is attached to another stone, is polished like a mirror. You can notice this when the stonework is shifted. Today we are as impressed by the stonework as the Spanish conquistadors were in the 16th century. Their chronicles read, "The most amazing thing in the Inca buildings are their walls. They look so unusual that no one who has witnessed them can fail to appreciate their magnificence. You cannot find anything comparable to them in the whole of Spain." However, there is no symmetry in these megaliths. They join in complex and irregular surfaces. Each and every stone is different. They look as if they had been found somewhere in nature just before they became part of the walls. How were these constructions built? Science tells us that Inca masons used only bronze crowbars in their work. They had no iron or steel tools, no hammers or grinding wheels. None of the modern versions about how these structures were built can be proven. At the same time, the inhabitants of the ancient sites remember stories that the rocks arrived through the air following the sound of trumpets, or that the stones were made soft with the help of the juice of certain plants. With the passing of time, the classical imperial style took the place of the megalithic masonry. Regular stones were fitted in neat rows. This was the method used in the construction of the capital's buildings. These walls used to guard the peace of the house of the chosen ones, the house for girls, Altair-TV. The Spanish priests ordered a convent of St. Catherine to be built there. As a sign of special status, snakes are carved on these walls of the educational institution for noble boys, Altair-TV, or the House of Knowledge. The snake is the universal symbol of esoteric knowledge and magic. The fate of the Inca buildings is the fate of the defeated. The stones were dragged away for the building of Christian cathedrals and monasteries. Nowadays, every Inca sanctuary has a Christian cross. Every Inca temple is replaced by a Catholic church. The main temple of the sun, Coricancha, or the Golden Courtyard, had always been the heart of the Inca Empire. Now a Dominican church stands on this ancient sacred site. Using our imagination, we can picture the most revered temple of the sun. What seems to be the foundations of the Catholic cathedral are in fact the outer walls of the ancient Coricancha. It is made from basalt, one of the hardest rocks in the world. This masonry is further evidence of the amazing artistry of the Incas. In front of the temple, a garden was created by the Incas. Everything that was there in the garden, trees, flowers, animals, insects, was made of gold, silver and precious metals. The Spanish records tell us a lot about this fabulous field of the sun, or shining Inti Pamba. The Coricancha is a complex of temples joined together by Baroque arches. These arches were built in the Spanish style brought by the conquistadors. Inca temples, on the other hand, were always single-story buildings, well constructed to withstand earthquakes, which are common in that area. There are several sanctuaries dedicated to the sky in this temple complex. There are temples to the sun, the moon, lightning, the rainbow, the stars and Venus. In every sanctuary, there were sheets of gold and silver depicting gods, as well as mummies of past Inca rulers and precious offerings. It was here in the Temple of the Sun that the priests lit a new fire with the aid of curved mirrors during the festival dedicated to the winter solstice. The famous Inca gold was plundered, loaded onto ships and sent to Europe. The Incas considered their gold to be the sweat of the divine sun. Unfortunately, the conquistadors were much more interested in gold than in the way the Incas worked and polished their stones. The mystery of how they managed to make these slots and holes, as well as their polishing work, remains unsolved. For example, this small section of granite, which is no bigger than a fingernail, penetrates more than 12 inches into the stone below. A stone staple or a stone nail. This is how these stones can be called in view of their function in construction works. The main question, how they were made, still remains unanswered. In 1613, an Indian called Juan de Santa Cruz Pachacutec wrote an account of the antiquities of the Kingdom of Peru. Moreover, he added to this written work a schematic drawing of one of the altars of the Temple of the Sun, the Coricancha. This is a modern drawing made on the basis of the one by Pachacutec. It depicts Inca cosmogony. The knowledge of cosmogony was transmitted from one generation to another among the Inca people. In the beginning, there was a single being called Viracocha, the cosmogonic egg, out of which everything arose. He created the world, which was dark, without the sun, the moon, and the stars. Afterwards he created the sun, Inti, the moon, Kilia, the star Venus, which shines brightly in the mornings and the evenings. The constellations of the Southern Cross, Orion, the Pleiades, which will always capture the gaze of the people on the earth. The rainbow Cuichi, the lightning Yapa, rains and mists. Viracocha created the sky and the earth. Mama Pacha, the Mother Earth with the seeds in her womb. Mama Cocha, the Mother Sea. Rivers, springs, streams, trees, animals, a man and a woman. Everything arose from the hands of the Creator. O Creator Viracocha, where are you? Outside? Inside? Above this world in the clouds? Below this world in the shades? Grasp me in your arms. Hold me in your hand. Wherever you are, my Lord, my Viracocha. The altar of the temple, which used to be a symbol of the center of the whole Inca Empire, can be found here, but not in the most honored place. In the past, it was from this altar that the four borders of the regions of the empire of Tawantinsuyu. Tawantinsuyu is the name this land had before the Spanish conquest. It means, in Quechua, the four sides of the world, or the country of four quarters. The center of the Inca Empire has always been the capital Cusco. It can be said that today there are nearly 13 million descendants of the ancient nation of Tawantinsuyu, living in Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Brazil, Chile, and Argentina. 5/6 of this population speak Quechua, and many of them still view the world as if it is divided into four quarters. Peruvian sheep was what one Spanish chronicler and traveler used to call the herds of llamas, alpacas and vicuna. These true helpers of the inhabitants of the Andes were domesticated during Inca times. It was the Incas who started cultivating many of the products that are still essential in the life of modern Peruvians: highland wheat, bean, squash, avocado, peanut, and of course potato, which was very popular. The Incas had nearly 250 varieties of potato. History has revealed that the greatest treasure taken by the Spanish conquistadors was not the gold, but the humble potato. Today, the value of all the potatoes produced worldwide in 1 year alone is several times higher than that of all the treasures plundered by the Spaniards in the Inca Empire. Centuries-old skills and a culture of hard work inculcated by the Incas are still preserved among their descendants. Long-abandoned irrigation canals are being repaired. The ancient agricultural terraces are being brought back to life. Today they are called andenes, or platforms. Thanks to the Inca invention of agricultural terraces, it became possible to cultivate the land in the most remote mountain areas. Otherwise, nearly 10,000 square miles of land would be unsuitable for cultivation. The soil on the mountain slopes was cultivated by the Incas in this way. The Incas were constantly redesigning their andenes. These terraces in Maray, not far from Cusco, may have been an experimental agricultural station. Each terrace is a model of a climate zone, and there are nearly 20 of them in all. Simple temperature experiments were carried out here. Water in a vessel left on upper terraces froze during the cold nights, while if left on lower terraces at the same time, the water remained unfrozen. Perhaps it was here that the many varieties of potatoes and other edible plants and fruits were bred. For some reason, many local plants do not take root in other lands. It may have been here that many different types of corn were developed. Corn was considered to be the most precious product in the empire, and food made for it was considered worthy of the gods. The first ploughing season was accompanied by solemn ceremonies throughout the whole territory of the empire. The great Inca ploughed the first furrow and started the sowing himself. The peasants would leave their own fields and begin by ploughing the fields of the state and the temples. Part of the crop was sent to the many storehouses, or kolkas, located in the capitals of the provinces. In exchange for this labor tax, every citizen of the empire received solid social guarantees. In times of war and natural disasters, they were provided with supplies and all the vital necessities directly from those storehouses. In times of peace, aid was provided to widows, orphans, and the elderly. The kolkas storehouses were usually built near the temples, as we find in the Rakchi complex. It was believed that all the fruits of the earth belonged to the gods and the supreme ruler. Storehouses were built next to the houses of the chosen women, akluwasi, because one of the tasks of these priestesses was to prepare the offerings for sacrifices. Other storehouses with different shapes were known as pirua. According to one of the versions, the name of Peru comes from pirua, meaning abundance, wealth. Storehouses of this type have been discovered near the mountain temple complex of Pisac. Pisac is situated 20 miles from Cusco. Here the sacred valley of the Incas begins. It stretches for 100 miles along the Urubamba River. This is the axis of the Inca civilization, in which the connection between the earthly and heavenly worlds played a central role. It was believed that the reflection of the Milky Way and other constellations, such as the llama, the condor, and the tree, could be found in the valley. Using the natural landscape and by erecting terraces, the Inca priests made these constellations visible on the ground, as if creating their reflection. This hillside is called Condor Peak. It is another example of sacred architecture. For the world of the Andes, the condor was a symbol of an intermediary between the two worlds. He soars high, close to the world of the gods, and builds his nests on the highest mountain peaks. He eats dead flesh and is revered as the guardian of the spirits of the dead. It is no coincidence that one of the largest ancient necropolises is found in Pisac. Here the souls of the dead are under the protection of the condor, the bird of heaven and earth. When burying their mummies, the Incas believed they were symbolically sowing the dead so that they could harvest the living. The temple complex of Pisac. This place was used as an observation tower, a citadel protecting the entrance to the sacred valley of the Incas from enemies. It was also an observatory where the priests observed the movements of celestial bodies. In addition, it was the temple of the sun. These walls protected Intihuatana, the altar of the temple, where was the place where the sun is bound. After the Spanish invasion, the inquisitors ordered the destruction of these sacred altars throughout the whole empire. Many sacred Inca centers were destroyed with the help of guns and gunpowder. To this day, the word Inca is synonymous with goodness and justice to many Peruvians. Pride in the past of the great empire Tahuantinsuyo is cultivated in the hearts and minds of the young people of the Andes. Peruvian schoolchildren know the list of rulers of the Inca dynasty: Manco Capac, Pachacútec, Tupac Yupanqui, Huayna Capac. These names rescue from oblivion that skillful and hard-working nation, whose energy and courage are the greatest treasure of this land.